Break it. Yeah. Break it. Slacker82alpha.
Check the dirt is dead, smell the rot in the wind. You keep your eyes on the pavement, counting every sin. Waiting for a miracle, man, it ain't gonna come. Waiting for a miracle, man, it ain't gonna come. I see that fake ass grin, looking vacant and numb. That polite little mask, yeah, starting to chip. I'm shoving truth down on mask, yeah, starting to chip. I'm shoving truth down your throat, take a bite of the whip. Hard pills to swallow, I'm the one with the dose. Hard pills to swallow, I'm the one with the dose. Bringing heavy reality, getting way too close. Bringing heavy reality, getting way too close. This is the Slacker82alpha Show. Maverick's the voice, yeah, the one in the red. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Tear the fabric from the frame, let the whole thing break. The revolution has no face, make no mistake. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. I'm done with the soft talk, no sugar on the tongue. I'm spitting the grit from the songs that I've sung. Chewing on the glass that you fed to the street while you hide in the penthouse, avoiding the heat. Your system is a cage built by cowards of dark, but the mob's at the gate and I'm holding the spark. Politically correct, I don't care if you're hurt. I'm digging up the bodies you left in the dirt. But the mob's at the gate and I'm holding the spark. Politically correct, I don't care if you're hurt. I'm digging up the bodies you left in the dirt. This is the Slacker82alpha Show. Maverick's the voice, yeah, the one in the red. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Tear the fabric from the frame, let the whole thing break. The revolution has no face, make no mistake. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Spit it out. Spit it out.
Yeah.
Spit it out. Tear it down.
Tear it down.
Tear it down. Spear it down. Spear it down. Tear it down. Nobody is safe. This is the Slacker82alpha Show. Maverick's the voice, yeah, the one in the red. Nobody is safe. Tear the fabric from the frame, let the whole thing break. The revolution has no face, make no mistake. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe.
The truth is out. The cage is gone. Maverick.
All right, welcome everybody. All right, another edition of Slacker82. I'm your host, Maverick, of course. All right, so what's going on, people? I know it's been just a week or so since I was my last show, but trying to get them. Just I'm getting there. You're able to hear the show on Paisley Radio, on UG Media, on Cast Radio. We're all over the place, and of course you can catch the replays everywhere. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find our show on there. It's heard by millions all over the world. Crazy that is, but it's crazy to say that, but it's true. But yeah, so well, there's a lot going on, and some people aren't going to like this show today. 100 days of war. We're in 100 days of this nice, lovely war between us and Iran. Yeah, we were told it was going to last a week, 2 weeks at the most, and here we are 100 days in already. But yeah, let's see. So what's new today? Iran and U.S. war latest. Iran launches fresh attack on Israel as it vows to crush response to strikes in Lebanon. Iran and U.S. have continued to trade strikes as the conflict enters its 100th day today. Happy birthday. Israel defenses are working to intercept missiles that have been launched from Iran following a string of threats earlier in the day. Israel's IDF said in a post on social media that identified missiles launched from Iran towards Israel, while defense systems are operating to intercept the threat. Sirens were sounded in several areas across the country following identification of missiles launched from Iran towards Israel, they added. Strikes marked the first attacks on Israel from Iran since April, since the ceasefire took effect. Unnamed Israel official told Axis that Israel's plans to respond. So, well, but wait a minute. I thought Iran didn't have the capability to fire any missiles anymore. Pretty sure that we were told that their Navy and Air Force and their missile capabilities have all been destroyed, and they can't do anything, and they're just there. But somehow it's like magic that they're able to go ahead and do it anyway. Who's lying? So, well, I have something fun, interesting for you guys today. Let me see. How many of you watched the interview with Trump on Meet the Press? It was interesting to say the least. You know what? But an interview with him is always interesting because you never know how it's going to go. And this one went the way most of them do. I've been looking at people's responses today from, on X and TikTok and Facebook, and, people saying, how Trump, did so great in the interview. And, he got so great that he walked out. I had enough, he said. But it's always that way. When he doesn't want to answer something and he can't, and he doesn't have the answer for it, it's either he starts insulting the host, which he did, and then he starts insulting other news places and things like that, which he did, and then oh, well, this is unfair. I'm out of here. This is enough. So the biggest thing was that he denied ever saying that he promised no new wars. And I thought that was so funny that he said that. Trump says he never promised no new wars and defends compensation fund. All right. In a lengthy interview on NBC's Meet the Press, the president again vowed gas prices will go down when the war ends. Oh, how many times we heard that? When's the war going to end? Well, we think, they're going to make a deal. Well, yeah, they said they're going to make a deal. Well, it's tougher than we thought. They're not ready to make a deal yet, but they're close, and this and that. It's the same thing over and over again. So President Trump, who campaigned on the central promise to keep the United States out of overseas wars, denied aired on Sunday that he'd ever made the pledge. I didn't guarantee no war, Mr. Trump said in a lengthy interview. Why would I have built the strongest military in the world? Speaking about U.S. and Israel war in Iran, he continued. So when you say I promised, I didn't promise anything. I don't like these. I don't like these endless wars. This is not an endless war. We've been doing this for 3 months. He promised as a candidate in 2024, Mr. Trump repeatedly pledged not to involve the United States in war, including on the night he won the election. They said he will start a war. Mr. Trump said he will not start a war during this. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. So, I have a little thing here I'm going to play for you guys that I, have here. Let's just see what Mr. Trump had to say.
I am the candidate of peace. I am peace. People don't believe that.
A vote for Donald Trump is a vote for a man who wants to end wars, not start them.
We do not want war with Iran. We actually want peace. The Iranians are clearly not very good at war. Perhaps they should follow President Trump's lead and give peace a chance.
Kamala's campaigning with warmongers like Liz Cheney. How do you think that is? She picks Liz Cheney, whose father virtually destroyed the Middle East. You know, Liz Cheney, she talks big, oh, I want war. She always wants war. Every time I was with her in the White House, we should attack this nation, that nation, nations that people never even heard of, we should attack. She's a big, tough guy. She sits back in Washington, oh, we ought to go and attack Iran, Iraq. We're going to attack everybody. That's why I broke up with her. All she wanted to do is go to war with everybody. These war hawks, they want to draft your kids to die in wars, and they will never fight themselves. You know, we'll stay around the country for 15 years, just bomb the hell out of everybody, make everybody miserable. Nobody knows why we're there, you know, the wars that never end. These endless wars that we've been in, I've gotten us out of so many. We don't want to get into wars. We're tired of fighting. I'm the only president in the last 84 years that didn't start a war.
Last 84 years where he didn't start a war. What he's thinking there.
Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more wars, no more wars. We will have prosperity and peace. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Remember, I'm the president of peace. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. He's going to start a war. I said, no. My rhetoric is going to keep us out of wars. And that's what happened. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. I believe that he will attack Iran sometime prior to the election because he thinks that's the only way he can get elected. Isn't it pathetic?
Now, the last part was he was talking about Obama. That was back, I don't remember what year that was, when he said that about Obama, that he predicted that Obama was going to get into a war with Iran. I'm pretty sure that was Obama. Anyway, but this is the president of peace. No new wars. But yet somehow he's forgotten that all these promises that he made, that he wasn't going to start a new war. It doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't. I mean, it's like the check that he was going to send to everybody. Then he went and said just the other day that he never said that. That he doesn't know what they're talking about because he never said there was going to be any kind of check. It's just it's just amazing, and you don't know if he's losing his mind or that because he says when he goes on these interviews, he just says whatever he feels like saying because he can't be being coached what to say or he wouldn't say like that because everybody in his administration knows that he said, and it's out there for everybody to see repeatedly over and over and over again when he was running to be president the second time that he wasn't going to start any new wars. No regime change, no new wars, no endless wars, none of these endless wars. Those were the things. He even said that on election day. He said the same thing. No new wars. He's the president of peace. And here we are 100 days in to this Iran war. It just makes you wonder just makes you wonder what's going on in his head, because there's no way. I mean, and why would you even come out and say that you didn't say it when you know it's posted everywhere? And you know that he has to know. He has to know because he's the one who says it over and over again. But he's just like anybody else that is running for office. They say whatever they want to get you to vote for them. And then when they get in, they forget everything. It's not that they forget. They just say, yeah, screw it. You know, I said that to get in here. I'm in here now. So now I can do whatever the hell I want. And that's what he's doing. I mean, he ran on all these things. And then now he's in, and there's just, nothing. I mean, he's going against everything that he said he was going to not do. This was funny. It looks like after the Meet the Press interview, so NBC News that fact checked things that he said. Fact check the things that he said to see, what was true. If so here's some stuff that they did. When I ran, NBC News took issue with the list of Trump's claims, starting with his reason for starting the war. They were very close to having a nuclear weapon. And then it says Trump's statement are not in line with what then Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard told the new lawmakers in March of 2025, months before the initial U.S. strike on Iran. The fact check said, citing an NBC News report on June 2025, that the U.S. assessment of Iran's nuclear program had not changed since March. Now, of course, I know some of you are going to say, it's NBC News, but obviously he doesn't think NBC News is fake news because he's doing interviews on there. So the fake news thing is gone. You can't have it one way where you want to do an interview, and you let them interview you, and then at the same time you're telling everybody that they're fake news. You can't believe what they say. So, screw that. Whatever. So, additionally, while Trump claimed that the U.S. totally obliterated the Iranian nuclear site in strikes, the reality is more nuanced, the report said. NBC News reported in July 2025 that one nuclear enrichment site was mostly destroyed, but two others were not as badly damaged. The report also took issue with Trump's exaggerated claim that U.S. forces have destroyed Iran's Navy, Air Force, and anti-aircraft. NBC News has reported that half the country's unconventional navy remains intact weeks after the bombing, the report said. Welker pressed Trump on his repeated campaign pledge. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. And Trump said, I did not guarantee no war. Why would I have built the strongest military in the world? When questioned on exuberant gas prices, Trump told Welker, if we sign the agreement, it'll go down now. Otherwise, they'll go down after we're finished. But the fact check disputed that prices will go down immediately. Oil executives have said it will take time to restore oil production in the Middle East and bring down gas prices, even if the Strait of Hormuz is open immediately. What's the other one? On January 6, 2021, Capitol rioters, Trump claimed the rioters had FBI agents usher them into the Capitol building, but Welker maintained there is no evidence that the FBI special agents ushered anyone into the building. CNN fact checkers Daniel Dale also called Trump out over his January 6th claim, writing, there's precisely no evidence that this happened. Trump ended up storming out of the interview, calling Welker stupid and Meet the Press crooked. Now, how can you call Meet the Press stupid when you're the one wanting it? You choose where you do an interview. it's not like you're forced to go to NBC and say, okay, I'll reluctantly do an interview with you. You chose to be there, and then you don't like the questions that you're getting, so then they're stupid, and then they're crooked, and then you walk out. And then he wants to, we both acknowledged the complications interview. He agreed to sit down for me with another interview, so he's going to do. He said he's going to do another one, as long as they don't ask him the questions he doesn't like to answer. I mean, but that's typical Trump. I mean, the interviews that he does, and he doesn't like the questions, and then it's automatically they're horrible, they're terrible, they're this, they're that, they're it's just the same repeated things over and over again. It just doesn't make sense. And I know people today are saying, "Oh, you're beating up Trump today." Well, but when I have some good stuff, I'll be more than happy to report all the good things that he's doing. But for me, and the majority of the country, he hasn't been doing a lot of good things lately. It's all been this crap and these things, and the repeated lies. I don't understand if he just doesn't realize that he's lying, or it just doesn't make sense, because how are you going to lie about something that that you said, and it's documented repeatedly that you said it, and he still claims that he didn't say it? I mean, I just there's something wrong there. It does, there's just something wrong there. And anybody who doesn't see it is a blind idiot. I'm sorry, but you are. You're just a blind idiot that you can't see the lies that he's telling. Because, like I said, those things about no new wars is nothing new. He campaigned the whole time on that. His whole campaign was built around that. Lower food prices, lower gas prices, lower energy prices, and no new wars, and no regime changes, and none of the, all these crap. And then he gets elected and he does all those things. Raise the gas prices because he started a stupid war with Iran. Raise the food prices, raise the energy prices. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It does, and then for him to come out and try to deny it is just stupid. It just makes absolutely no sense to come out and try to deny yourself of ever saying those things. I don't know. It's just I don't know. All right. So let's move on here. I thought this was an interesting article that I read yesterday. I read this, but I saved it so I could read it. Vulnerable Republicans increasingly willing to defy Trump's agenda as midterms approach. See, Trump's going to have a problem because Republicans are starting to realize that he is not helping the party now. He's really hurting the party. And these people that want chances to be reelected are looking at him and going, we can't back a lot of these things that he's doing. We can't stick and say, we agree with the things that he's doing. And so now they're starting to get some balls, I guess. So Donald Trump remains the clear leader of the Republican Party. Yet his grip is weakening among Republicans on Capitol Hill who've grown frustrated by what they view as increasing brazen decisions on his second term. Exactly. I mean, exactly what I just said. Republicans are still on track to muscle through a top priority next week, delivering $70 billion in immigration and custom enforcement and custom border protection funding. But even that measure has a serious risk of collapse in recent weeks after Republicans revolted over Trump's insistence for a $1.8 billion settlement fund that critics say intended to reward his political supporters. We talked about that last show, this fund that he put together, that he wanted to put together, I should say. It seems to be shot down, and he seems to be backing away from that. While Senate GOP leaders successfully quashed much of the dissent, the days of bitter wrangling exposed cracks in Trump's base of support on Capitol Hill. There's now a growing choir of Republicans that just, and not just the usual defectors, willing to defy him as they seek to retain in his pursuit of his agenda, ranging from projects like the White House ballroom, extracting political retribution on his enemies, of his handling of the Iran war, and other foreign policy issues. The trend is only expected to accelerate as November approaches. With the contentious fights ahead, like Trump pushed to confirm his controversial expected pick to lead Department of Justice. So, like I said, I mean, it's finally, he's going to have a problem, because the thing is these other Republicans are looking at the stuff that he's doing, that Trump's going to be gone in what, 2.5 years? I guess it is something now. I don't know, something like that, right? Yeah. And they're still going to be here. They still want their jobs. You know what I mean? And so they have to, they got to start breaking ranks, I guess. And I can't blame them. I can't. I mean, I agree. If you want to survive this Trump era, you are going to have to decide what's more important. I mean, I can understand why they're afraid to, because, hey, they become a target of Trump if they go against, they go against them. They become a target. They can't, and they're afraid. I mean, that's to be expected. Anybody who goes against Trump, even on the littlest things, you automatically become his enemy, because he deems it as disloyal. They're disloyal. You're not following me. You're disloyal. Not people who have a brain. If you have half a brain, you gotta realize the things that he's doing. A lot of it just doesn't make sense, and it's not America first anymore. And I've said this repeated shows, and you've heard it elsewhere, that MAGA is dead. I mean, Trump's assuring and making sure that America's dead. Excuse me, not America. MAGA's dead. And the things that he's doing are just not in the best interest of the Republican Party. And you can sit there and say, oh, I'm full of shit, that I don't know what I'm talking about. Trump's doing the best job and this and that. But if you're honest with yourself, you got to see it. You got to, you can only deny it for so long. It was funny because yesterday I was on X. I've been on X a lot lately, just blasting some people and listening to what people have to say. And General Flynn, who I've had on the show, great guy, great interviewer. I enjoyed interviewing him. Said something about Trump doing something, and about Obama. I think finally arresting Obama or whatever, and and the other people and putting people in jail. And look, like I said, I really like General Flynn, but I said to him, General Flynn, I said, I agree with you 99% of the time. I said, but on this, as well as I do, Trump is not focused on those things that he should be focused on. If we were going to do that, the ball should have been rolling a long time ago. That should have been first thing, but it's not. Trump has a different agenda, and it's all over the place. And nobody can figure it out. I mean, I'm sorry, but for me, Trump's agenda now is to get his name on as much things as he can, get as much money, squeeze as much money out as he can out of this presidency, because he knows once he's done, he's done. I mean, he gets out, he's going to be, 80, 82, 83 years old? I mean, come on. He knows he's done. There's no more politics for him. There's nothing else for him to do. You were a 2-term president. That's it. You're done. I mean, he didn't leave after his first term. He stuck around, kept his voice out there, kept doing rallies for whatever reason. I don't know. And, kept his hands in things, trying to, for whatever reason. But this time it's going to be different. We're going to be lucky. We're going to be lucky if we can keep the White House in 28. We're going to have a tough time midterms. We got to get through midterms first, and midterms are going to be rough. Trump, I'm not worried about midterms. Well, you should be. You should be. But at the same time, what does he care? It doesn't affect him. It doesn't affect him. The only way it's going to affect him is if Democrats take the House and somehow we squeak by and keep the Senate. They're going to try to impeach him. They'll impeach him again. This will be his 4th impeachment. I'm sure they're not going to be able to get him out of the White House, but God forbid they get the House and the Senate. He's done. People don't want to believe it and don't want to hear it, but that's the reality of it. So him and everybody else, Vance, Hegseth, they'll go after everybody. You can guarantee that. Mark this day, June 7th, 5:38 p.m. The Maverick said that because I really, truly believe that's the case. I don't know. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that's not the case. I hope that it's not. But the way I see things right now, I don't see this coming out good for anybody. I don't know. Just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. What's this here? U.S. boat strike kills over 200 people. Service members have questions. President Donald Trump could preemptively pardon service members for acts committed during his term. What is this? The U.S. military strike in the Caribbean and East Pacific have killed over 200 people, prompting legal experts to deem the orders illegal and raising concerns about the service members' liability, possible Trump pardons, and lack of accountability. Over the past 9 months, U.S. military strikes on boats in the Caribbean and East Pacific have killed more than 200 people. Legal experts and former military lawyers say the strikes constitute illegal orders that service members are required to refuse under U.S. law. Trump administration has provided no evidence that targeted boats carried drugs or were linked to drug cartels, and most of the victims have not been identified. Anonymous legal help hotlines have received calls from several service members involved in planning or in executing strikes seeking guidance on their orders legality. Senator Marco Rubio stated that the Senate budget hearing that each boat strike has a legal officer on the deck who determines its legality. Well, that's interesting. I have to see how that plays out because that's very interesting. I didn't even think about that. Huh. No, that's interesting that these guys, these service members are trying to find out if they can be put in jail for that. I'll have to keep an eye on that one. Keep an eye on that. What else we got in the news? Let's see. ICE says detainees are worst of the worst. Government data disagrees. And officials say they're removing killers, rapists from the streets. Data obtained by New York Times indicates most detainees at the Newark facility haven't been convicted of crimes. A report emerged last month that immigrants held at Newark Detention Center were staging a hunger strike to protest conditions there. Demonstrators mobilized, and New Jersey governors, was it Mikey Sherrill? I don't know who that is. It's a New Jersey governor. Mikey? I don't know. Demanded to be let in so she could inspect the building. Federal officials rejected her demand and said that she and other Democratic officials in New Jersey should be grateful the Immigration and Customs Enforcement was removing killers, rapists, and other criminals, the worst of the worst, they said, from the state. Official government's own data, including some of the from internal documents the New York Times obtained this week, indicated people with criminal eviction account for just a fraction of the detainees at the Newark Center. In early April, I stopped updating its once regular public report on the numbers of people being detained at its facilities. Internal data obtained by the Times show that 591 people held at Delaney Hall this week. 76, about 13%, had criminal convictions, and 123, about 21% had pending criminal charges. Yeah. I mean, look, I was, as far as getting rid of the crap in this country, I'm all for it. Always have been. I'm always for, cleaning up and getting the garbage out. And all these illegal garbage that came in this country. Reality of it is we're not even scratching the surface of what's in here because we have no idea where they are. We've had discussions on this show in the past how far these deportations should go, who should be rounded up and who shouldn't be. In the beginning, I was, everybody. If you're here illegally, you're a criminal. Out of here. You don't belong here. And then discussions were had and some good points were made. And then I kind of softened my stance a little on that and who should be. I'm still not 100% saying that everybody should go, but at the same time, the argument was, what about the people who've been here 25, 30, 40 years, been good, working, doing whatever, establishing businesses and stuff like that. Well, first of all, in my opinion, You're here. You came here illegally. You're a criminal. You know, you've been here for 20, 30 years. You have kids. You know, your kids were born here and stuff like that. And it's like you still came here illegal. You know what I mean? You came here the wrong way. And there has to be some kind of penalty for that. Even if you've been here for 20, 30 years or 40 years or whatever, there has to be some kind of penalty. And then where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line and say, all right, you know, these people will argue, oh, those people should be able to stay. All right, so where do you draw the line? That guy's been here 5 years. He has a business. He's got a family. That guy's been here 30 years. He's got a business. He's got a family. Where do you draw the line and say, all right, well, they got to go? You know, and nobody wants to be the bad guy and say, you know, that illegal is illegal, period. You came here, you didn't come here the right way. You crossed the border somehow. You got here. Yes, you made your way. You stayed out of trouble. That doesn't mean that you're better than the other guy who came across the border yesterday. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, you know, look, it's definitely a hard debate to have. And a lot of people think a lot of different ways. You know, I always knew that the mass deportation thing that Trump ran on, I'm going to deport everybody, was going to be a bunch of crap, and it wasn't going to be as easy as he thought it was going to be. And then he realized it's not. That's why you don't hear anything about it. That's why you don't really hear anything about the mass deportations anymore. Used to be that's all you saw on the TV, ICE rounding up people, raiding places, you know, and now you don't really hear about it. You also used to hear about the Epstein files. You don't hear anything about that. It's because when it doesn't favor the government, they find another thing to distract the American people. And that's where we're just being distracted. You know, all those things haven't disappeared. They haven't gone anywhere. They're still there. But people aren't paying attention because they're being distracted by this. You know, the Epstein files, the immigration, everything like that on the right. And then they say, hey, look over here to the left. You know, no, this is Iran war now. We're in a war with Iran. You know, so they got everybody distracted with that. You know, and of course, the gas prices and everything that goes along with it. You know, so yeah, you know, it just, you know, we could talk about that forever because there's so many opinions on it and the way people think, and it, you know, it's just the way it is, I guess. I mean, we're never gonna the Epstein files. You're never gonna see any. And then you know, and come back to X. You know, people talking about, oh, you know, Trump said that they're gonna start, you know, going after people. DOJ is gonna start going after this and this and that. We're not gonna see shit. Obama will never see the inside of a jail cell, and neither will anybody else of importance. You know, oh well, Obama was you know, the mastermind of the Russian hoax and this and that. But you know what? Good for him. You know, it's so end because nothing's ever going to come out of it. We just like we're never going to find out who all these pedophiles were at the Epstein files. Just like you're never going to find out who killed Kennedy. Just like you're not going to find out who killed Bobby Kennedy. Just like you're not going to find out who killed Martin Luther King. You know, and the list goes on and on. And then they try to distract you with this alien thing. You know, the the Iran war is going on. Let's throw out the alien thing, and maybe people will be distracted by that and won't think about the gas prices that are $5 a gallon because of the stupid war. You know, that's what they do. I mean, you know, when things aren't going their way, they find something else to throw out there to distract you. You know, the alien thing really didn't distract anybody. I mean, they threw it out there. You heard about it for like a day or two, and then it kind of just fell to the wayside. You know, nobody really gives a shit, honestly, about freaking aliens. Nobody cares. You know, they wanted to try to make it like it was a big thing, like, you know, they were, you know, giving you some good information that, you know, aliens exist. And I don't know if they do or they don't. I've interviewed some people. You know, I've interviewed Stan Deo, who's a great guy, UFO expert, worked on some black projects. So he's been around this stuff and he knows. He says they exist. Well, who am I to dispute that? You know, I don't know. I've never seen one. And honestly, I don't want to see one, you know. You know, he said they exist and that they're, you know, they're not nice people. That they're here. They've been here, you know. And, you know, who am I to dispute that? You know, I'm not going to call the guy a liar. Frankly, I believe what he's talking about. I've had him on several times. I've interviewed him several times. Great guy. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dispute that. I can't dispute something I don't really know anything about. So I don't know. We're not, you know, like I said, we're just never going to know the truth about all those things. We're just not going to. I mean, it's just not gonna. It's just not gonna. All right. What else do we got here? We got anything else to talk about? Oil inventories drying up. What is that? America's crude inventories are. Okay, oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I lost my access to that. Oh, sorry. Oh, there it is. Are getting perilously low. That's not the full story. You have a buffer getting close to not being a buffer anymore, analysts say. There are growing worries that the U.S. commercial oil inventories are too low for comfort as the war with Iran enters its fourth month, far from a clear resolution. And a lot hinges on how much longer the conflict drags on. Inventories are the shock absorbers of the energy world. They smooth out tensions between ups and downs of supply and usually steady pace of demand. To be an efficient cushion for countries and companies, however, stockpiles need to be at a Goldilocks level, not too much, not too little. The on again, off again negotiations to end the pause of the conflict have upended such calculations, such as uncertainty has made it difficult to determine ideal inventories. Instead, there's a nuisance. U.S. commercial inventories may be adequate for now, but if the bulk of the Middle Eastern oil supplies remains out of global reach for longer, they could prove inadequate. Excuse me. So, I guess the gist of that is that the longer this thing runs on, the bigger problem the oil price thing becomes. What's this? Los Angeles mayor primary result. It's 2026. Well, looks like the incumbent, Karen Bass, is one that advancing to, yep, they called it. She's advancing to the general election, 235,180 votes, 34%, 34.8%. Spencer Pratt, I guess that was the big Trump push guy, came in at 27.3%. Right behind him at 26.2% was somebody. I don't know. Because it really doesn't matter. That is a live result. Let me see. Is that a live result? That's what it says. Yeah. So Karen Bass faces 2 serious challenges. She battles for a second term. Yeah, well, there you go. Of course, I know they're all claiming that there was so much corruption in that count and this and that, and Trump's yelling, it's been, fake. Oh, I mean, the same garbage, same garbage over and over again. Fake this, fake that. This interesting, that story about the emails that Crooks had emails with a deputy apparently from Butler, PA. I didn't really get into it too much. I was trying to read some of it before the show, but real quick, what's up? We got a little bit. Judicial Watch announced today to force the release of 48 heavily redacted pages from the Federal Bureau of Investigations through the Freedom of Information Act. Lawsuit revealing the Butler County Sheriff Deputy exchanged emails with would-be Trump assassin Thomas Crooks prior to the July 13th, 2024 shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania. Records indicate that a special weapons and tactic officer recovered a gray remote device with an antenna from Crooks' pocket after he was killed. Records show that a medic with the Beaver County Emergency Service Unit told FBI that she was on the roof of the American Glass Research Building examining Crooks' body when she informed the police canine had informed that a police canine had hit on the building as she was told to evacuate the roof where Crooks' body remained. Judicial Watch filed July 25th lawsuit after FBI failed to respond to the July 2024 FOIA request. File record related to Crooks' assassination attempt to presidential candidate Donald Trump. Requests included investigation files, interview summaries, reports, communications. There's just so much about that. Like we could do a whole show on that. And now that somebody in the sheriff's department was exchanging emails with this guy prior, I mean, the whole thing just doesn't make sense, And the fact that we really don't know anything about this kid, and we're getting 2 years, right? July will be 2 years. And we have no more knowledge about this guy and why he did it, if he did it, and who he did it, who did it with him, or by him by itself. All that crap. It just, I always like to use that one, what Judge Judy says. If it doesn't make sense, it's not true. So, I mean, there's just something about that whole thing. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say that, that the Trump administration faked it, because obviously, unfortunately, in that incident, people died. I don't believe the theory that Trump got hit by a bullet. I believe that it was the glass, as they reported originally. It was the glass from the teleprompter that shattered, that cut him. I don't believe he got struck by a bullet. I don't believe that theory because I've seen pictures of his ear after, and there's not a scar or anything there. You know what I mean? So it sounds better to say that, that he was, grazed by a bullet. Sure, it does. But if he was grazed by a bullet, 226 or whatever it was, 223, excuse me, or whatever it was, I think part of his ear would have been missing. He didn't have surgery to repair his ear or anything like that. So I think, I think the original report that came out was that it was the glass from the teleprompter that shattered, that the bullet went through, shattered the teleprompter, and that's what cut him, the glass. But who knows? We're never going to know. I mean, that's just one of those things we're never going to have an answer to. And if it was that, you're never going to hear it, because it doesn't. It sounds better that, I know, and I'm going to get heat for saying these things, but just like this other attempt, not even attempt. I'm sorry, but that was the only attempt on Trump's life. The guy who was sitting at the golf course, wasn't anywhere near Trump. And then the other guy who at the correspondence dinner, that guy wasn't anywhere near. And then they want to say this guy that fired shots outside of the White House, out in the street, was another attempt. I mean, it just, you're getting far stretched here. If they were made it to the same room or close enough to him where they could have shot him, that's one thing. That's an attempt. The butler was an attempt. By who? Was it crooks? Who knows? I don't think so. But again, it's just one of those things we're never going to know. All right. Well, I'm sure some of you are going to have some things to say about what I said today, but, I didn't say anything that wasn't true. Fact check me. All right. We are going to be out of here. And
I am the candidate of peace. I am.
Check the mic.
All right. We're out of here.
Yeah. Break it. Slacker82alpha.
Check the dirt is dead, smell the rot in the wind. You keep your eyes on the pavement, counting every sin. Waiting for a miracle, man, it ain't gonna come. Waiting for a miracle, man, it ain't gonna come. I see that fake ass grin looking vacant and numb. That polite little mask, yeah, starting to chip. I'm shoving truth down on mask, yeah, starting to chip. I'm shoving truth down your throat, take a bite of the whip. Hard pills to swallow, I'm the one with the dose. Hard pills to swallow, I'm the one with the dose. Bringing heavy reality, getting way too close. Bringing heavy reality, getting way too close. This is the Slacker82alpha Show. Maverick's the voice, yeah, the one in the red. Nobody is safe.